Okay, let me tell you what is actually happening right now. Not what might happen, what is happening. If you notice, Oracle has cut thousands of positions in its global workforce. And this is not because business is declining, it's because AI is now handling what those people were doing in the past. And also consider Salesforce. They are reducing new hire by 30%, and this was in 2023, while simultaneously investing over $4 billion in AI capabilities. And same goes with Duolingo, which ended up contracts with human content creators and replaced that work with generative AI. And those three examples are actually not outliers. They are the leading edge of a wave that is moving through every sector, at every scale, in every geography. And again, McKinsey published this research, and it was again in 2023, where it estimated that between 60 and 70% of current work activities could be automated using existing AI technology. And this is not in 10 years. Using technology that already exists and is already being deployed by the companies with the resources and the appetite to move fastest. So here's the question that is sitting in the back of every CEO and business owner's mind right now, that how do I stay competitive in a world where AI is reducing the cost of knowledge work while maintaining the culture, the trust, and the human quality of my organization? And that is the tension that I want to discuss in this particular video. And actually this is real. So do not let anyone tell you it is not. The empathy side of this is real. These are people's livelihoods, their sense of purpose, their professional identity. And the competitive side of this is also real. Because if you do not move with the market will move without you. So your competitors are having this conversation right now, and some of them are already acting on it. So the business that navigate this well will not be the ones that choose empathy over competitiveness or competitiveness over empathy. They will be the ones who held both simultaneously, and they built a system that honored both at the same time. And this is exactly what I want to help you do in this particular next 10 to 15 minutes. So I want to give you 6 specific steps. So let us just go straight into them. But first, let me give you a framework that changes how you think about this entire conversation. Because there are 3 types of roles in every business, and understanding which type a role belongs to determines how AI affects it and what the right response is. So the first type is what I call the robot role. And these are roles where primary functions is rule-based. They are repetitive and volume-driven, such as data entry, invoice reconciliation, scheduling from defined parameters, report generation from structured data. And these roles are not going to change. They're going to disappear. Not because the people in them are not valuable, but it's because the work they are doing should never have required a human being in the first place. And here's the reason. AI does this work faster, it does it more accurately, and round the clock 24/7. So if your business still has people spending significant portions of their work on robot role tasks, that is a structural problem you need to address with clarity and with compassion, but you do need to address it. So let's move to the second type, which is the judgment role. And in these type of roles, they require experience, they require contextual understanding, relationship management, and the ability to handle ambiguity. So a senior operations manager who knows when a client relationship needs a phone call rather than an email, Just as an example, a business development director who can read a room and adjust the conversation. A CEO who can sense when the board needs to pause the strategy and recalibrate. So what happens is AI is going to enhance these roles but does not replace them, because the judgment is what the client is paying for. The AI provides the information faster. The human provides the wisdom about what to do with it. This is the category most businesses should be investing in building. So let's move to the third type, which is the amplified role. And these are roles that become dramatically more powerful when AI is added to them. And let me share some examples. The financial analyst who used to spend, say, 40 hours per month on data preparation can now spend those 40 hours on interpretation and recommendation. The marketing team that used to take 3 weeks to test 5 messages can now test 50 in 3 days. The planner who used to model 2 route scenario in the morning can now model 20. And these roles do not disappear, they expand. The people in them who embrace the amplification become significantly more valuable than those who are going to resist it. So that particular framework is actually the foundation for every conversation you have with your team about AI. Now, not all roles are affected in the same way. The first thing you owe your people is the clarity to tell them which category their role belongs to and what that means for the future in your organization. And this brings me to step number 1. So step number 1 is to have the honest conversation before the market forces it. So the worst thing that you can do as a leader right now is just wait until AI has already changed your business before you tell your team it is coming. Take an example of NVIDIA's Jensen Huang, who famously communicates with radical transparency about where the company is going and why. And he does not manage expectations downwards. He raises them with evidence. So your team deserves the same. So what I propose is you need to call a meeting. Tell them what is happening in the market. Tell them which roles in your business are in the robot role category and what your timeline and plan is for addressing that. Tell them which roles are in the judgment and amplified categories and what that means for their particular development. Now, here's the thing. Uncertainty without information produces fear. Certainty without empathy produces cynicism. So honest, evidenced, empathetic communication is going to produce trust. And trust is the one thing AI cannot produce for you. That is what makes an impact, not the technology, the conversation that precedes the technology. So let's move to step 2, which is to audit your processes before you automate them. And this is the step that separates the businesses that capture real value from AI from the businesses that spend money on tools that deliver disappointment. So what's happening is most AI deployments fail not because the technology was wrong, but because the process being automated was already broken. And you cannot automate your way out of a broken process. You will simply break faster and more expensively. So before you invest in any AI tool, what you need to do is map the 10 highest friction processes in your business. So for each one, ask 3 questions. Is this particular process clearly defined and documented? Is the output measurable? And is the quality of the human version consistent? If the answer to any of these questions is no, fix the process before you begin to automate it. The difference between a process and a habit is where the automation value lies. Automating a habit produces noise. Automating a clear process produces compound returns. So let's move to step 3, which is to identify your AI champions before you even need them. So in every organization, there are people who lean towards technology with curiosity rather than anxiety. You need to find them, name them, give them the time, the resources, and the explicit permission to explore AI tools in the context of their specific roles. And this is not as a technology project. It is as a business improvement initiative. And these people become your internal proof of concept. When a skeptical colleague sees someone they respect doing their job more effectively with an AI tool, the cultural resistance drops faster than any top-down mandate could achieve. And step 4 is to redefine what productivity means in your particular organization. And I believe this is perhaps the most important cultural shift of the next 5 years, and most leadership teams have not yet had that particular conversation. So consider, historically, productivity has meant output per hour. The person who processes the most invoices, answers the most emails, or attends the most meetings has been described as the most productive. AI actually breaks that particular model completely. So when a process is automated, the person who was doing that process has recovered hours. What they do with those hours is the measure of their value going forward. And the leader who uses those hours to deepen client relationships is more valuable. And the analyst who uses those hours to interpret rather than compile is more valuable. And imagine the manager who uses those hours to develop their team is more valuable. So I hope you get the gist. Productivity in the AI era is about the quality of human judgment applied per available hour, not the volume of tasks completed. So if you do not redefine this explicitly in your organization, your people will fill the recovered hours with the work that they are going to find safest, which is often the work that AI should be doing for them. And step 5 is to invest in human skills that AI simply cannot replicate. And these are empathy, ethical judgment, creative synthesis, the ability to build trust in a room, the capacity to hold two contradictory ideas simultaneously and find the third option that resolves both. These are actually not soft skills. They are the competitive advantage of every human in your organization as AI assumes more of the technical workload. And consider Apple. Apple understands this better than almost any company in the world. While every competitor was racing to put AI features into products, what Apple did is it spent years building a culture of extraordinary design sensibility, right? It's the human judgment about what makes an experience feel right. That is the skill AI simply cannot replicate. And it is the skill that has allowed Apple to maintain the highest customer loyalty scores in the consumer technology sector for over a decade. That is what drives traction, not the features, the human judgment behind the features. And step 6 is to build the governance framework before the decisions are required. And this is the step that most businesses skip entirely because it feels premature. And actually it is not premature. It is urgent. I press upon you, decide now as a leadership team which of the decisions in your organization can be made by AI, which decisions require human oversight of an AI recommendation and which decisions require human judgment entirely without AI involvement. You just need to write it down. You need to publish it. Make it part of your governance architecture. Because here's what is going to happen to organizations that do not do this. They are going to encounter their first AI-generated recommendation that is wrong in a consequential way, and they do not have a framework for handling it. What they do is they will start blaming the technology, and they're going to retreat from the deployment, and ultimately they lose the competitive ground they have gained. And they spend the next 12 months rebuilding the trust that a clear governance framework would have protected them from the beginning. So, the difference between an AI-ready organization and an AI-anxious one is almost never the technology. It is the governance. And governance is leadership responsibility, not a technology one. So let me close with this. Oracle, Salesforce, and every other company reducing headcount because of AI are not doing something unusual. They are doing what competitive markets have always required. They are deploying the most effective means of producing their product or service at the standard their customers expect. The businesses that navigate this with their culture intact are not the ones that avoided the conversation. They are going to be the ones that led it with honesty, with clarity, and with the understanding that the goal is not to protect jobs from AI. The goal is to build an organization where humans do the things that make them extraordinary and AI does everything else. So here's the thing. Your people deserve to know which category they are in. They deserve a leader who has thought this through before the market forces the decision. And they deserve an organization that is designed to amplify what they are genuinely brilliant at rather than to replace it. That is the leadership responsibility of this particular moment, and it belongs to you. I'm Vijay Mistri, clarity first, impact fast. I'll see you in the next one.